Hi guys, it's Mike 5 from Lights and Lines, your favourite independent record label, and I'm here to introduce the very first episode of The Inner Sleeve, a brand new podcast from the label that peels back the layers of the independent music scene. I'm going to be here every week with Goes at Goodspeed, Grim 17, and we're going to talk about the highs and the lows and some of the stories behind making music outside of the mainstream, trying to run an independent record label, build a collective. We're going to talk about some of the topics that are important to all of us in that scene. You know, what's it like being an independent artist? What's the reality of streaming? What is it about this community that makes it such a special place to be? And sometimes it's all about those behind the scenes, never make it to social media moments that we might just share in between the lines and the laughs. It should be really good fun, really looking forward to it. So if you're an independent artist yourself, or you're just someone who loves independent music, you want to hear real conversations with real people trying to do something good, then please do give us a listen. We'll be releasing episodes roughly once a week, as long as we can keep on top of that. This very first episode is one of 3 that we're releasing to kickstart the podcast, and this is all about bad gig experiences. I hope you enjoy it. Cheers guys. Right, come on, guys.
Right.
Tell us about gigs. Let's get going.
Gigs.
Bad gigs. Well, I think, like I said on TikTok, I've had a million bad gigs. The guy who bled all over my guitar always stuck in my head, just because he was the last person to ever bleed over my guitar. If you know what I mean, that was it. No one else is going to bleed over my guitar except me. Was kind of my psychology then.
That was what I was going to say. That I mean, surely you must have bled over your guitar at gigs yourself a few times. I mean,
of course I have. Yeah,
being that I was a bassist in a band for years, I mean, the amount of blood that I ended up with on the fucking scratch plate. So
that's it. But I don't want anyone else's blood on my guitar.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like there's got to be a line somewhere, and I think other people's blood is probably it.
I'm looking at my favourite guitar right now, and I can still see, because I don't really clean it, I can still see a little trickle of dried blood from presumably the last time I played a gig with that guitar. So,
good God,
Nice.
Mike, clean your instruments, damn it.
Yeah.
but I don't like to clean it because I feel like it's like I don't really like restringing, to be honest, because
Right.
but I hate it just doesn't sound the same as when you've really worn it in. So I don't like to touch anything because I think maybe that bit of dust is what gave it that really good tone that night.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
Well, I have a very different attitude to my guitars, which is that I will change my strings before every gig, especially the acoustic gigs, in order to make the guitar sound the way I want it to sound fresh and nice. So I'm always cleaning the fretboard and changing strings, always.
I think I can understand that more on an acoustic because you often want that sort of brightness, and a dull sort of damp sounding acoustic doesn't resonate in the same way. But when you're plugging it in and shoving it through a load of noise things anyway,
Maybe
I like how it feels, and I think the muddiness almost improves the tone. I don't know, maybe I'm talking absolute bollocks. But
I think you are. I think you've talked yourself into this as a way to not change the strings. That's what I think.
But can we just go back to the blood? Because when you said he was the last person to ever bleed on my instrument, that sounded very sort of mafia. That sounded like you took it out. The message.
That's it. The last person to have bled on my guitar, he sleeps with the Fishers now.
Yes.
Part of the reason actually that I changed strings before virtually every gig is because I had a bad habit for a long time of snapping strings during gigs, right? This is going back to bad gigs. So I had a bad gig last year. Me and the band Goes at Goodspeed and the Neon Gamblers, we played at we played at Dartmouth in a military college, right?
Right.
They were having they were supposed to be having a festival themed passing out event. That's what I was told and sold, right? And so that's what all the musicians who've been playing across the night have been told. and we showed up. The band and I all showed up like ready. We were told bring the festival vibes. We were ready to do this, and it's like military Hogwarts when you go there, right? And and you definitely feel like you're a Muggle, and everybody down to the last man was in like military uniform, and they had not got the memo that it was supposed to be a festival, right? And they were looking at us like, who the fuck are these people who have wandered onto our campus? Should we shoot them? Because a lot of these guys had guns, right? And anyway, we arrived and we got set up, and we're playing outside on an outside stage with this lovely view of Dartmouth and everything, and it's kind of sunset, and I'm thinking this is going to be brilliant, right? And there's a covers band who are on first, and they they're doing their best. They're getting nothing from the crowd at all. The crowd are basically just acting like they're not there. And every time the band finishes a song, the only polite smattering of applause that they hear is coming from us behind the stage, ready to go on next, right? So there's all these like military brass and the glamorous wives looking really bored and po-faced, and that's the atmosphere that we came onto. And I tried every single trick in the book to get them going. I honestly, we did everything we could, and me and the band, we're used to having a really good time on stage. Whatever's happening elsewhere in a venue or whatever, we're having a good time on stage, and that's kind of the rule, right? If you're not having a good time, then no one's having a good time. But we tried and tried and tried, and nobody was having a good time at that gig. Honestly, it was like they were just you could have been the Rolling Stones in that environment, and they would not have reacted. They would have just like shrugged and gone, "Where's the bar?" You know what I mean? So, but my guitar was really loud, and it was so loud. My guitar. I think it just got away from the sound man. He was just like, oh, fuck it, it's loud, whatever. It's a festival, and it was so loud that it was drowning out. I could barely hear the other guys, right? And because it's the loudest instrument, everyone's paying attention to the guitar. Those that are paying attention are paying attention to the guitar. And it was the penultimate song of this terrible gig where we got hardly any reaction from the audience, and I snapped 3 strings on my electric all at once. Jeez. In one easy downward stroke. Like I don't know what it was. It's the time of year, the humidity. Like I'd only changed the strings the day before and all that kind of thing. But yeah, three strings out of 6 in one downward stroke went on this song, and because it was like the second to last song. I was kind of like, well, it's not worth me. It's not worth me tuning up, getting some other strings and trying to like get it on just for one more song. So we're only about 25 seconds into this number, and I had to stop playing and just sing along with the bass and the drums, and it sounded terrible, and nobody cared. And I felt really, really bad, really exposed, and really, really miserable about the whole thing. And that just immediately like came off and headed for the beer. Basically, after that, it was like fucking hell. And we all agreed. We agreed straight away we were never going back to that place to do another gig, because it was just we were sold a dog, man. Bless them. But it was not our scene. Especially if you knew the other guys in the band, like they're not. None of us would have thrived at military school. Let's put it that way.
Which 3 strings snapped?
Which 3 strings snapped? It was the A, and it was the B and the E. I seem to remember.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say if it was like whatever.
No, and it was just like there was nothing that you could do because the remaining strings went wildly out of tune at the same time. So it's not like you could just like cover things up by playing root notes or anything like that. It was just it was just horrible. It was just but that's a really recent one. I could go on and on and on about terrible gigs I've played. I mean, I literally I want to hear from someone else now. So tell me, Grim.
Go on.
Mike.
Oh, well, I mean, most of mine are just, my worst one was literally just, was a fucking, an open mic night. And it was an open mic night that I've been going to for a while, and it was hosted by this, well, it was sort of hosted by this bar. And, like, I was just so drunk that I still got up and went to play at this open mic night, and it was just that I knew the sound man, who was literally, he sat right next to the stool where everyone goes up to play the open mic, and I was sitting, and it was like I genuinely just forgot how to play everything, you know. It was like, but I still tried, and he eventually, the guy that I knew, and as kindly as he possibly could, just sort of sidled up to me and just went, you know, maybe this isn't your night.
I think he's going to ask you for a request.
Fuck yeah, well, yeah. But
like he's going to go, hey mate, do you know any Ed Sheeran?
Well, I mean, Dirty Old Town would be fairly apt, considering, you know, Shane MacGowan was always fucking 4 sheets to the wind when he performed.
True.
But no, that was about the worst one, just mainly from the point of view that it was sort of, you know, I've been doing it so long, and I know what I'm doing and all that there, and it's just to sort of how drunk I needed to get to actually not be able to perform was sort of the testament, you know, which is exactly, and you know, I don't want to dwell on it or keep going back to it or whatever, but exactly why I don't fucking drink anymore. You know, it's sort of things like that, and extrapolating out from that. Other than that, even the worst gigs that I ever had, 9 times out of 10, they sort of turn into the best gigs on some level. Like the band that I was with, we did this gig where we supported. Do you remember a band called Test Icicles?
No.
No. There was a band. There was like a British hardcore band in the early 2000s called Test Icicles. They had some moderate success. You know, it was everyone doing that sort of fake at the drive-in shit. You know, there was just this period where everyone wanted to emulate at the drive-in, and they were one of those bands. And we had this gig supporting them, and literally no one turned up. So there was like no one there, and except this one girl turned up. And so she was there at the front of the fucking stage, and it was a huge hall, so it was like almost to accentuate just how few people there were there. They had this massive hall, and there was just this one girl, and then there was the Test Icicles tour manager, who was this tiny, insane French dude called Axel, who was who was in his 50s, and he was just on his laptop at the back of the hall, doing merch or some shit like that. And we just started fucking playing anyway, and it was so gratifying because he got up from what he was doing when he heard us playing and came up to fucking cheer and fucking dance and do all this mad shit. Nobody came to the gig, so we got paid like 50 quid for the gig. And so us and Test Icicles and this guy Axel, this insane French guy, smoking, you know, remember Black Rollies? Remember the guys who smoked Black Rollies? Yeah. So we just went out and we just spent all our money getting fucking blind drunk on whiskey with Test Icicles and this mad Frenchman called Axel, which was a great night. But like, you know, it's just no one came to the fucking gig. So that's a sort of a double-edged sword kind of one. But
yeah,
come on, Mike, give us your worst gig.
Sounds like a great night out.
Yeah. It was really good, actually. It was really good. Test Icicles are good guys. They're kind of, but it wouldn't have mattered what Test Icicles were like because we were just so enthralled by this guy Axel. He was just so. It was just he was so serious at the start of the night. Like he was on his laptop, he was doing stuff that he needed to do for the band, and it was like some switch in his head, and suddenly he was just he was like a fucking, you know, like a golden retriever man, you know, sort of excited and running back and forth and, you know, telling these stories and sort of forgetting to finish the story and wandering off to talk to someone else and he, you know, just full of energy with this sort of this wild grey black hair just sort of sticking out, the juts all over his head, and this sort of withered Bruce Springsteen face. And he was just an amazing guy. And I just had a great night with him.
Sounds incredible.
Come on, Mike, what have you got?
Well, the one I want to tell is not this, but just quickly, the open mic night one really reminded me of. So I really love open mic nights. Like, I think they're absolutely brilliant. There's always just some random group of people that if you go a few times end up becoming your friends. And you just go, how the hell do I know these people? And it's just because they happen to get up and do something and whatever. But I do remember one where, because I don't normally sing, like I've probably done that a bit more in the last couple of years, but I've always been the guitarist and someone else is the singer in a band. And I did one when we first moved into the town I live in now, which was 10 years ago maybe, and I wanted to go out and meet some new people and whatever, and I went to open mic, and I was really conscious that I didn't have any of my mates with me that would sing, because they all lived where I used to live, and so I really rehearsed whatever song, it was like a Cure song or something, I think, really kind of like practiced, thinking I don't want to make a complete tit of myself at this thing, right? So I really practiced kind of singing and playing. I haven't done it for years. I don't have a great singing voice by any stretch, but I can kind of hold a note pretty much. And but I did exactly what Grim did. So fucking drunk. Not only could I not sing, I also couldn't remember the fucking words. So at one point, I was just going round and round 4 chords, just kind of going, just humming badly, right, off my fucking tits. And there's people looking at me going, who the hell is this guy? And then it was a 3-song thing, right? And that was the one I'd concentrate on because I knew it the least. And then I just was like, yeah, that'll be. And then I broke into something I knew, which is something I'd written, because I'm crap at playing other people's songs, but I'd written something years ago and played it like a million times, and in far worse states probably than I was in when I was younger. And I kind of, other people enjoyed it, right? They started singing along and jumping up and down and getting a bit leery. I was like, okay, maybe I should just stick to drunk shit that I wrote when I was 20.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
The semi-popular covers. But actually, that wasn't the story I was going to tell. The story I was going to tell was when I was at university. I was in band for about 10 years. That no one's ever heard of because it was before streaming and everything else. But we were okay. We never really went anywhere or wanted to. We just enjoyed dossing about playing, and we kind of went through phases of rock and punk, kind of folky stuff and whatever. We just started playing. Had roughly the same group of mates, although over 10 years we did have 13 different bass players. But everyone else stayed the same.
Acres doesn't.
Yeah, but we were still in the band when I was at university, and I'd spent the day doing what you do at university, right? Drinking and getting fucked up, and not going to lectures or whatever. And it was about 2-3 p.m. maybe 4, and someone reminded me I had a gig, and I was like, oh shit, I completely forgotten that was a thing. I knew that I'd arranged for someone else to drive there, so I didn't have to worry about that side of it. But we would do at rehearsal or whatever, sound check or whatever at 5. I was like, shit, I do not have time to sober up, so I'm going to have to keep drinking. In that kind of
That's a brilliant bit of thinking.
Yeah. Well,
I don't have time to sober up now.
The worst thing is it gets to 8 o'clock and you've got a hangover on stage, right? I don't want that. So I was like, I have to carry on. But anyway, I gathered up all my stuff. So, big guitar amp and a guitar. And I used to bring a spare guitar in case I snapped a string, and did what we now call a gozer. Whatever. So I had, all this stuff and a bag full of pedals and, leads and whatever. And it was all very disorganized. Didn't have pedal boards or any of this proper stuff. It was all just chuck everything in a rucksack, lug an amp head around and a couple of guitars. Anyway, came out of this is my first year of university. I'm in the Brocker Halls. I'm on the 3rd floor. Came out, stumbled over the doorstep and essentially fell down half a flight of stairs carrying all this stuff, right? Kind of smashed my head against a brick wall. The thing, I was kind of like, oh fuck, stood up, and everyone was like, oh my god, you okay? And luckily nothing had smashed. All my guitars were in decent cases because I realised what kind of person I was, and I knew I needed to look after stuff. So it's kind of like nothing was fucked up apart from me a little bit, and I was like, oh, I'll be okay. I got a gash on my head. And I went, just give me a second. I went back into my flat and into my room, and I got you know those like the fish sort of bucket hats, the fishing hats, you know, like the new
Yeah.
Was it? Don't give up, you know, those guys. So I had one of those. It's like that would do because it would cover up the massive fucking gash on the front of my head, right? While I'm on stage. So put this hat on, got in the car, got to the gig, did the sound check, whatever. Playing the gig. It's pretty decent. It was like a Tuesday night, so it wasn't like round or anything, but it was pretty decent. It was a regular slot we had at this place. It was called Quid Rock. You pay £1, you get in. So students from all over Brighton would go in, and it was great. And at the time, I had this habit. I had really long cables, like 30, 40-foot cables, because I like to run and jump off the stage and into the crowd. And then years later, you got the wireless one, so you can just wander around. It's great fun. But anyway, I had this like 40-foot cable, and I was just, playing, doing the set, doing the gig, whatever, having a good time. Felt a little bit spaced out and fucked up because I'd hit my head, but I was kind of okay. And I thought, I'm going to do it, right? And there's what I can see is a sort of blurred mess of heads. Looks like a big group of people. I think I was probably seeing double or triple at that point because there was nowhere near enough people for me to do this. But I kind of took a bit of a run up, went to go and leap off the stage, tripped over the lead kind of halfway through, half somersaulted into a crowd that very quickly dispersed and probably wasn't really something you'd call a crowd. Landed on my ass, I kind of bruised my coccyx mid-guitar solo, right? Looked down, I'm like, I played in the wrong key because my hand had slipped. So I kind of moved up a fret or two to get into the right thing. Lying on my back, carried on trying to style this thing out. Tried to stand up, and literally, I felt my fucking knees go. I just like damaged something and just collapsed, right? And everyone kind of stopped. Everyone in the band stopped. Everyone in the crowd stopped. When there's a circle of people around you, you go, something's wrong here, isn't it? And I'm really past, and I'm all fucked up. Anyway, I got up. I was fine. I was like, it's okay. And I was like, hey, and then got back on. And
I'm alive.
Yeah, I'm alive. But it was honestly... because it was just a shit thing. You're just going, I look like such a dickhead, and I've got to carry on and finish the set because I look like an absolute idiot. And I'm wearing this stupid fucking hat, cast, and I don't, and it was just the most stupid set of circumstances. And for me, that was the worst one. I don't think we played terribly, but I can remember anyway. But it was just. That morbid fear. When you walk down the street years later and for no reason you remember something like that and you wince.
Yeah.
And then you realise, I didn't mean to wince at that person. I wasn't wincing at you. It's nothing You carry on.
You ever, do you know the band Pup? P-U-P?
Yes.
Have you ever seen the video for their song Reservoir?
Not that I remember.
No, it's literally just them playing in this kind of tiny club to this crowd, and it's a really energetic song. And it's literally everything, all their equipment and everything around them just starts breaking on them. And as it breaks, it just fucks them up. Like the drummer's one of his drums breaks or something that literally breaks one of his arms, and he has to have a guy come up and hit the other drum for him while he's just there with a broken arm. Or like the bass player, the string snaps and literally takes a chunk out of his cheek, and it's like the whole way through the video. That's all the video is, and at the end they're just going to hospital because they're all fucked up. And that's what your story reminded me of.